Drivers and Danica, start your engines!
Pull those belts down tight one more time. Warm up those tires. Hit your marks and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, NHRA, and local dirt track and drag strip racing talk. This is the fastest hour in radio.
Where'd you go? Where's your home? How'd you end up all alone? Can you hear me now? Hear me now.
Here's your host, Steve West and Dustin Harmer, with producer John Myers.
Hey, welcome into it. This will be the final weekend of the month of July in the year 2016, and this is the fastest hour in radio. Two of us are in studio. The other is driving through a tunnel in downtown Baltimore.
He's such a slacker.
I know. One would have thought that, all that fastest hour kind of thing, he would have actually, been there by now.
Should have been.
Dustin Harmer on his way back to see family in, not in Baltimore, I should say.
In the state of Maryland.
It's actually closer to Delaware, the state line of Delaware, than he is to downtown Baltimore. But either way, he will be calling in shortly once he gets out from the tunnel in downtown Baltimore. Fort McHenry Tunnel, I think?
I think so.
It's been a while since I've been in downtown Baltimore, but I'm thinking that's the one. So anyway, we'll be hearing from him shortly. John Myers over there on the other side of the glass, holding down the fort and making sure that the buttons are pressed as they should be, and thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, sir.
Phone lines are open to you at 941-1011 and toll free at 866-551-9933. Of course, that is if you're listening to the live edition of the show, which is on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern, for those of you who are listening online or on the free Superstation 101 app.
Yeah, they got to sleep in late.
Yeah, really.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, no kidding. By the way, if you haven't heard about the Superstation 101 app, it is free. It's on Apple iTunes, and it's on the Google Play Store as well. Feel free to download it. That way you can take us anywhere, anyplace, anytime, and listen to us all over. And it is clear, because I have checked it out on numerous occasions, and it does. It sounds very, very good. They did a great job with it. All right, so we start off as we usually do by getting into things that happened last week on the track, and last week it was, for NASCAR anyway, Indianapolis weekend. Seemed like kind of a repeat of 2015 as well, because we began with the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. In dominating fashion, Moonlighter Kyle Busch claimed the win by leading all but one of the laps that was run. Yikes. Kyle Busch showed how dominant his weekend was going to be. He claimed the pole positions for both of the Indianapolis races on Saturday morning, got into his Xfinity ride, rolled on to that second consecutive Xfinity win at the historic track. Trailing him were more Moonlighters. In second place was Kevin Harvick, then Paul Menard, and then Kyle Larson. Finally, we had an Xfinity regular, Justin Allgaier, coming home fifth. Rest of your top 10, Elliott Sadler, Daniel Suarez, Moonlighter Joey Logano, Ty Dillon, Brandon Jones. So with Busch winning, again, it means no new winners making their way into the Xfinity Series chase. Again, leaves Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, and Elliott Sadler as the only surefire qualifiers among the 12 who are going to make the chase in the Xfinity Series. Those who are in on points right now, they include Ty Dillon, Justin Allgaier, Brendan Gaughan, Brandon Jones, Brennan Poole, Darrell Wallace Jr., Ryan Reed, Ryan Sieg, and Blake Cook. But again, because of Moonlighters taking the top four slots and 5 of the top 7 positions, Dustin, we have still only 3 actual qualifiers for the chase in the Xfinity Series.
Exactly, and guys who are losing points because of Moonlighters finishing in front of them.
As much of a difference as there is now between and I understand that Toyota still runs Camrys in both series, but you got Ford Mustangs and Chevy Camaros versus Chevrolet SSs and Ford Fusions and stuff like that. And there's just enough body style difference there. And there's the handling characteristics are different. The weight between the cars is different. What in the world is Kyle Busch getting out of, or for that matter, a Kevin Harvick or a Joey Logano or a Brad Keselowski or a Kyle Larson? What in the world are they actually getting out of running the Xfinity Series?
They're not really getting anything. I mean, except for the fact that if you look at it, they're actually getting a little bit more track time. They're seeing how the track changes. They're getting a chance to do that. But the thing is the cars are different. but the tire is the same type of tire. So it's just giving them a chance to see how the tire wear happens, seeing, how the track is kind of rubbering in and how it feels. And it really gives them a boost for the next day when they go to the Sprint Cup level. That's why Kyle Busch, I think, that's just my opinion, but I think that's why he is as good as he is. He gets that extra practice time.
Yeah. Well, and you may be onto something there, but I'm here to tell you it's annoying.
It is.
Just getting really
Extremely.
annoying.
Well, he gets the practice time and he gets the coin purse, so you know.
That's true, too. And he keeps that money away from anybody else that, hey, they could actually probably use it. Sunday morning, we move over to Formula One, at least Sunday morning United States time. The Hungarian Grand Prix kicked off, and as Dustin and I predicted, and we know it wasn't a big stretch, a Mercedes was going to be celebrating the win. That was true. I went with Hamilton. Dustin went with Rosberg. It was Hamilton first, Rosberg second. And, this week it could be totally different. The battle was all but over on turn 1 of lap 1 when Hamilton took the lead from the pole sitter of Rosberg, and the battle ended up being on. It actually was close throughout the event. Hamilton claimed the win by a rather scant, at least for Formula One standards, 1.9 seconds, but Rosberg finishes second. Again, this is becoming rather easy to predict.
Yes. It's becoming to the point where you don't even have to see any of the results. I mean, even if they wreck, you can still pick them to win.
Well, and I was last night when I was finalizing this report, and it was kind of late because John and I had gone and done some research for the show that follows us, the Entertainment Roundtable. We went and saw the movie Jason Bourne. And when we got home, I turned on the TV and did a quick check to see if there was anything related to racing on, and the NBC Sports Network, which has the rights to Formula One, they were showing practice from earlier that day at the German Grand Prix. And other than a slight moment when Daniel Ricciardo jumped up there to the top of the speed charts, for the entire practice session, it was Hamilton or Rosberg at the top of the speed charts. It's ultimately predictable.
Yeah, it's way too predictable. They've got to figure something out. It was great. I mean, we saw this a couple years ago with Sebastian Vettel and the Red Bull team, having the dominance that they had. And it seems like, the flag has shifted. The wind's coming from a different direction. Now it's the Mercedes camp that's benefiting the most from what they've got going on. It would be great if we get 1 year where the entire board is level, where we can see some great racing action, see some different people up front, see some different winners, and really see this championship turn into something that would be worth it for some others, because half of the field is basically like, why try?
Yeah, well, all right, you mentioned that. So you got the two Mercedes out front. You got the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. Sebastian Vettel in a Ferrari is, Daniel Ricciardo was third. Sebastian Vettel in a Ferrari is fourth. Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull is fifth. So we've talked about 3 teams in the top 5 so far. Rest of your top 10, Kimi Räikkönen, there's your other Ferrari. Now we finally get others. You got Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Valtteri Bottas, and Nico Hülkenberg. So you got a little bit of a range here. You've got, Williams. You got both of the Williams and Alonso and Bottas. You got Hülkenberg let me think real quick. That's Sahara Force India. So
yeah, that's Sahara Force India.
At least we're getting some, and we're seeing some teams that are jumping up and at least getting up into the top 10, but they're really having a hard time cracking that top 5 at this point in time.
They are, and it's going to be continuing to be an uphill battle for them, especially with the dominance that Mercedes has. They just can't knock them off that podium yet. It'll happen.
Yeah.
It happened with Sebastian Vettel. It will happen with Mercedes.
Sooner or later. Yeah, it will. With the win, and for the first time in 2016, kind of a little bit of a shock there, Lewis Hamilton finally is your points leader. It seemed like almost a fait accompli, but it finally happened. Took the lead in the driver's standing. He's up 6 points on his teammate Nico Rosberg. Daniel Ricciardo moves up to third place, 77 points out of the lead. He is a point ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, though. Sebastian Vettel is fifth, 82 points out. Rest of your top 10, Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, Felipe Massa, Carlos Sainz jumps up into the top 10. His 8th place finish on Sunday moved him ahead of Romain Grosjean in the driver's standings by a mere 2 points, but he's still there and holds it by himself. Mercedes, meanwhile, builds upon their Constructors' Cup lead. They're up 154 points over Ferrari, which means they could miss about 2 or 3 races, and it really wouldn't affect them. Red Bull closes in on Ferrari. They're now only 1 point behind Ferrari for third place. They are the only teams, by the way, with more than 100 points. Williams, Sahara Force India, they both complete the top 5. They're knocking on the door of 100 points, but they still haven't quite gotten there yet, so time will only tell whether they can. if you watched Saturday and then turn around and you watched Sunday at Indianapolis, Sunday seemed a little bit like a Saturday replay. Same car, same driver number in victory lane, just with a different sponsor. And he didn't lead all but one lap as he had the day before. He led 149 of the 170 laps, so not that much of a difference as far as how dominant he was. Kyle Busch bested his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Matt Kenseth by more than 2 seconds. It's very strange to think that the gap for victory was actually larger in NASCAR than it was in Formula One. We don't see that often.
No, we don't. We usually beat and bang into the line, and in Formula One, it's like, here's a car, then 30 seconds later, here's another car, but it was really weird.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. No doubt.
There's no other word to describe it.
Yeah,
it's just weird.
It is. This claims, by the way, Kyle Busch's second consecutive Brickyard 400 win. He becomes the first driver in NASCAR history to claim the secondary and Cup Series poles and wins on the same weekend. That's just how dominant the Joe Gibbs Racing team with Kyle Busch behind a wheel was. Again, Matt Kenseth was second, trailed by Jimmy Johnson. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson make up your top five. Then Kevin Harvick came in sixth. Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Austin Dillon, and Paul Menard. As we've been keeping up with him, Tony Stewart finished 11th in his final Brickyard 400. And out of retirement, Jeff Gordon, subbing for Dale Earnhardt Jr., again, missed the race because still suffering from concussion-like symptoms. Jeff Gordon finished 13th. Not bad for a guy who, granted, he's got 5 wins at this track, but he hasn't been in a race car all year long.
No, it was. We all knew he was going to be able to step in and really do the job. I mean, it's not like he's been out for several years. My only concern, and I think they really took care of that, was during the practice time and the qualifying, letting him get used to this downforce package, letting him get used to how the car handles since he hasn't driven this new car, and he did exceptionally well. I mean, it just goes to show you, it speaks volumes to the fact that he's a 4-time champion. He can get in and wheel it.
Yeah, he can, no doubt about it, and he showed why exactly. So Kyle Busch now ties Brad Keselowski, got the most wins on the season at 4 each. Dale Jr., on the other hand, falls out of the top 16 in points due to his sitting out for those concussion-related symptoms. Those who are now in on points but without a win include Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman, Jamie McMurray, and Kyle Larson. Tony Stewart, with his 11th place finish, is sitting 28th in points. He's 7 points up on Casey Mears. He's 12 points ahead of Landon Castle for 30th. So while he's in 28th, only 12 points ahead of 30th place, he is up 39 on 31st place David Reagan. This isn't the most comfortable of positions for a guy who needs to be in the top 30 to be able to make the chase.
No, and that's exactly as we march towards Richmond before the chase cutoff. He's wanting to get max points as possible to spread that out a little bit more, give him a little bit more breathing room. Another win would be great too, but he's just got to be able to separate from that as much as possible. So he's got to have some great finishes between now and Richmond. It is summertime, so Smoke is going to be on a mission during the summer. We know how good he can be. We've seen how good he can be over the past couple weeks. He's focused. He's got that Tony back in him, so it's great to see that. I think that's what's going to seal this deal. I think he's going to be just fine.
Well, since he got that win out at Sonoma, he seems to be a different driver. He was a guy who was actually very, very... He was uncomfortable behind the wheel. He wasn't really happy doing the Sprint Cup Series racing. You could tell that he was really looking forward to next year when he's out of the Sprint Cup car and he can do what he wants to do, which is get back to his love, which is dirt racing. And we even heard that. He gets the win at Watkins Glen, and now all of a sudden it really seems like, you know what? Now I have something that I can focus on. Now I'm beginning to have fun. I have that spark back. Now that I have that win, I know that I have a chase coming up that I can get into and be into the postseason. I've got something that towards the end of the season I can now work on. And
yeah, and that's the thing. The biggest thing that was that he was just very bitter. I mean, going off of such a winless streak and then being able to go into Sonoma and grab that win. We talked about it on the show. That was the shot in the arm that Tony needed after the way this season kicked off for him. That was that one thing that it was just that puzzle piece. And now we're seeing Tony of old going out there and being aggressive and driving and trying to do everything he can, because you're right, he's got a chase berth now. He could go out on top. He realizes it.
Well, and it seems like it's actually not only giving him that shot in the arm, it's not that we've seen it as far as him being in victory lane. Obviously, he still only has the one win, but we're noticing in qualifying, he's up in the top 15, top 10, maybe even top 5. Heck, he qualified, I think it was 6th for tomorrow's race out of Pocono. And we consistently see him top 15, top 10 results.
Yeah.
He's doing those things that he needs to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's had to do. We were getting a little concerned earlier in the season, though, when he came back and everything was, just wasn't going his way. And then all of a sudden, the cards shifted, and now it's all leaning towards Tony. And we were you were worried. I was worried. We were all collectively worried about the fact was he going to be able to go out there and grab a win? We were trying to figure out what track he was going to be able to grab that win. But since that happened, it seems like he's a lot more calm, cool, collected on the radio with his crew chief, and he's really giving some good information. They're making some really good calls on the box. And that's not bad for a rookie crew chief as well. Yeah,
no doubt about it. All right, well, good stuff there. Let's go out to the Rocky Mountains. In the NHRA, they were running out in near Denver, Colorado. Tony Schumacher made his way to get the win in Top Fuels division of the NHRA, a 3.802 ETA at 324.28 miles per hour, bested Antron Brown for the Mopar Mile High Nationals win. Meanwhile, the forces were actually a force in Funny Car. Finally, we get to talk about him. The dad, John, beat his daughter Courtney to the finish line to claim his first event win in 2016. Kind of hard to believe that we're finally, this late in their season, talking about him being able to gun his Camaro to a win. It was a whole shot win, by the way. 3.965 second ETA at 319.45 miles per hour. Now, all right, we just got done talking about Tony Stewart needing that shot in the arm. Is this the shot in the arm that John Force needed?
Well, considering the way his post-celebratory, grabbed the microphone from the guy and went crazy up on stage, I would definitely say that this was a super special one for him to be able to kind of come back and capitalize and have such a tremendous weekend, and then to have to beat his daughter Courtney. I mean, this was the weekend that everybody was waiting for. I mean, we've talked about it how many countless times. When are we going to see John Force back on top? And when he got on top, that's the kind of response that we were expecting to see, and it didn't disappoint. That's for sure. I
agree. We'll see whether this is his launching pad. Into the Pro Stock division, Alan Johnson comes away with the win. A 6.982 second ETA at 197.39 miles per hour gets him the win over Vincent Noble. While in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Andrew Hines gets another win on the season. He bested Eddie Krawick, 7.134 second ETA at 188.33 miles per hour. That leads us to points. We begin in Top Fuel. Antron Brown is your leader. He's up 57 points on Doug Kalita. You got Steve Torrance, 163 points out. Brittany Force, 193 back. And Tony Schumacher's in fifth, 229 back. Ron Capps continues to lead in Funny Car, up 122 over Courtney Force, who jumps up into second place. Jack Beckman, 144 back, 239 over Matt Hagan. Robert Height, 243 back. Even with the win, John Force actually didn't crack the top 5. He did finally, though, for the first time this season that I can tell. And again, this may be going way, way back to the very, very first couple of races, but it has certainly at least been a long time since John Force can say he's been in the top 10 in points this season, if he has ever been. But he finally is now. Again, only 7th, though. Pro Stock, Jason Line and Greg Anderson, who are amazingly not really factors on Sunday, continue to lead the way. They've already locked up their playoff spots for that division later on this season, because Bo Butner is in third, 593 points back. And then Sunday's finalists, Alan Johnson and Vincent Nobile, 663 and 790 points back, respectively, for fourth and fifth. With the win on Sunday, Andrew Hines close to within 109 points of Eddie Krawick in the Pro Stock Motorcycle points, but Eddie still holding on to that lead overall. Angel Sampé in third, 208 back. Gerald Savoy, 242 in arrears. Chip Ellis is fifth, 356 points out of the lead from that division. Some of these divisions they seemingly are runaways, and others are fairly close, but hey, we still got a ways to go before that season is over at the NHRA.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I just got this feeling that things getting ready to get turned up real fast. We're seeing a lot of different things happening over there, so this is going to get good.
Well, and again, I mentioned the fact that they weren't even anywhere involved as far as being factors in pro stock. Jason Line and Greg Anderson, they were actually out relatively early for those two guys. But all you need, and we deal with this also in NASCAR when it comes to the chase for the Sprint Cup, because you have the 10 races broken down into different segments here. The first 3 rounds are 3 races apiece. You don't have that mulligan anymore. You get into the playoffs, you really don't have a mulligan there. If you mess up there like they did in Denver, for all of the dominance that they've had throughout the season, your season's done.
Yeah, that is very true. It's overdone kaput.
So let's find out whether they continue this through the rest of the season, or if somebody, these other teams maybe have found something and now they're starting to catch up. That becomes the trick. Let's go to this weekend of racing, and they go from Indianapolis to Pocono, and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series is back in action. They're going to be running the Pocono Mountains 150. It'll air on Fox Sports 1 and the Motor Racing Network on radio. Starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time today. NASCAR Xfinity Series is also in action, but they will be at Iowa Speedway for the U.S. Cellular 250. That little short track going to get the attention of the NBC Sports Network and Motor Racing Network on radio. Starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Formula One runs for the second week in a row. They're going to run the German Grand Prix on the Hockenheim course. This is a 17-turn, 2.84-mile-long course. Coverage is on the NBC Sports Network. That starts tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Central Time. Later in the day, Sprint Cup Series going to run the Pennsylvania 400 at Pocono. Coverage of that event on the Motor Racing Network and the NBC Sports Network gets underway 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Yesterday, Martin Truex Jr. grabbed the pole, and he had been my choice last week, by the way, at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he was strong all day. He just certainly wasn't dominant. We have talked about the differences between tracks here, but we're in a string here, especially of 3 races, that Tony Stewart always said it's not just one road course. We go to the road course at Watkins Glen International next weekend, but the way that a track like an Indianapolis Motor Speedway runs, and the way that the Tricky Triangle runs at Pocono, where the 3 corners are all 3 extremely different, Tony Stewart has always felt like this was almost 3 road course races in a row. You there? We lost him.
I'm going to say he's not there.
We lost him. It'll be interesting to see where he is and when we'll be able to get him back. But in thinking about for Martin Truex Jr., again, I thought that he would probably be in a much better position last week than he was this week. I don't know whether Kyle Busch is going to be able to do that much, to be honest with you. I'm kind of looking at his teammate, Denny Hamlin, who has always run really, really well at Pocono. Time will tell what's going to happen here. I think we got Dustin back. Maybe. So anyway, that's tomorrow. Again, Martin Truex Jr. on the pole. That's not the end of the racing tomorrow. Verizon IndyCar Series, they're back in action on Sunday. Honda Indy 200 going to be running at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This is a 2.25-mile long, 18-turn track. Now, live coverage will kick off on CNBC. That's right, the business network, because NBC, for whatever reason, seems like they can't figure out how to put racing on the actual NBC network. CNBC, Verizon IndyCar Series, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. There we go. All right, you're back. Everything good?
No, I still hear the Wonder Woman theme song.
Oh, you got stuff playing in the background there, John, don't you?
That's what I just asked him, because I dropped, and I said, who's playing Wonder Woman? I couldn't hear a word you've been saying for the past 4 minutes.
Okay, well, the situation that I was talking about when it came to Martin Truex Jr., Martin Truex Jr. was my pick from the poll last weekend.
Right.
And this is a stretch of tracks from Indianapolis to Pocono. Next weekend we go to Watkins Glen, where Tony Stewart, and not just Tony, but Tony most notably for me, has called this really a stretch of 3 road courses. Because you think about the difference. It's not the easiest thing to do to get around a very flat track of an Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Pocono, all 3 of those corners there are extremely different, and they're all patterned after different courses. The turn 2, they state, is kind of modeled after what you've got over at Indianapolis. Turn 1 is based upon a turn at Watkins Glen, as it turns out. So in looking at this, you would expect the road course racers to really pick it up. But is this a testament to Kyle Busch or, the fact that he was able to be so dominant there? I don't know whether this is just his magical year and a half, or whatever that it means.
A broken clock is right twice a day. I think it's great that he dominated the way that he did this past weekend at Indy and everything, but just, I don't know, something just wasn't right about the rest of the field versus that car. But when you go to like Pocono, you're right that you have 3 different corners. You can be great in one corner and kind of good in another and awful in the third, and then you just make one slight change and it changes the complexity of your car on all 3 turns. It's just so rough to try and get out there and do it. It is though. It's rough.
Yep, I got you. As I was mentioning, Verizon IndyCar Series is going to be back. Honda Indy 200 Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and I was marveling at this. The coverage will be live because NBC can't figure out how to put a race on the NBC network, so they're going to put it on the CNBC since Sprint Cup racing is going to be over on the NBC Sports Network. So Verizon IndyCar Series on CNBC, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. They will replay it later in the evening on the NBC Sports Network. So again, still nothing on NBC. I don't know what it is with that network. We are going to get back to that, though, in just a couple of minutes.
They're all lost in the weeds.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the NHRA actually will get things on their finals going last. Going to be running the Toyota Sonoma Nationals at Sonoma Raceway Park. This will be on the Fox network, the main network. That network that actually everybody gets for the second weekend in a row. Coverage starts at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. So that's the wrap-up from last weekend and your look ahead to this weekend. When we come back, we start by talking about what happened following last weekend's Brickyard 400. It's a track that means a whole lot to 2 different drivers, not the winner. We'll talk about how much it meant to them and what Indianapolis let them do, and so much more. When we come back, you are listening to The Fastest Hour in Radio on Superstation 101 WIDE.
You're listening to the fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101.
Flashlight fail you again? Security system batteries running low? Emergency situations call for immediate action, and you don't have time to be fighting bad batteries in the dark. Interstate Batteries has the highest quality batteries that stand up to the challenge again and again. Get your batteries from Interstate before you find yourself alone in the dark. Call 1-800-CRANK-IT for a dealer near you. Interstate Batteries, the right battery every time.
Hey, Steve West here for the Entertainment Roundtable, and we are live on Saturday mornings, and we are enjoying it. Hope you are as well. Make sure you join us this Saturday morning, bright and early, 9 a.m., and we're going to be detailing all the movie and television news that you could possibly want. You never know. We get reviews every once in a while. Just kind of depends. Do we really like the movie enough to want to go see it? You never know what we might be reviewing. It's the Entertainment Roundtable, live at 9 a.m. Saturday mornings with replay Sunday evening, 6 p.m. only on Superstation 101 WIDE.
Back to green flag action on the fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101.
Hey, welcome back in. Fastest hour in radio rolling on here. We dealt with all the on-track stuff from last weekend and what you can expect on the track this weekend. Now we get to all the off-the-track news. Well, sort of off the track and kind of on the track, if you will. Following last Sunday's running of the Brickyard 400, Kyle Busch did stay on the front stretch doing donuts, getting out, grab the checkered flags, blah, 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 blah. Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon ended up going side by side and took what they're terming one final lap around the 2.5-mile rectangle, waving and giving their thanks to the fans one more time. Of course, Stewart is in his retirement year, previously announced that he would retire at the end of the 2016 season. Here's the thing. Jeff Gordon wasn't expecting to run this race because he'd retired after last year, but of course, as Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s concussion symptoms sidelined him, Rick Hendrick tapped him to fill in for him in the 88. So following the event and that final lap, both of the drivers got out of their cars. Gordon went over, gave Stewart a hug in front of the cameras before Stewart was interviewed in post-race festivities. Stewart said on his part, quote, "For us to share that moment together, I mean, that's probably our last lap around here in a professional race. and I'll cherish that moment. It's something that doesn't happen very often. It was pretty cool. We're never going to get that chance to do it again. Following that was Gordon, who said, quote, "I enjoyed moments. I enjoyed that last ceremonial pace lap with Tony Stewart. I'll be honest, those restarts, that wasn't fun." He had a hard time getting on restarts. I don't know whether it was just lack of practice or what it was, but it was uncharacteristic of a Jeff Gordon to not have a good restart, especially at an Indianapolis.
It is, and that just goes to show you, the car is very different this year. Like I was talking about earlier, he's getting in, and it's his first time in it. So he didn't really get a good chance to get a lot of restart time. There really is no way to practice restart. You do it during the race. But for Tony, I thought it was great, and I thought it was just a class act for him to tell his spotter to go down to Gordon's spotter and tell him to have Jeff. He wanted to have Jeff run that lap with him. Yeah. So that that's where everybody reaches out. Everybody's buddy. Of course, there's a few that you don't want buddy, and they overshadowed the fact that other guy was getting a checkered flag, and that was the greatest part of the day.
Yeah, it really was. When you think about it, even Jeff Gordon admitted he wasn't good on the double file restarts. Actually said he was lucky he missed out on about 4 crashes that could have collected the 88 on those restarts. But he was able to recover late. He kind of figured it out there towards the end. He passed 2 cars in that final 2 laps of the race, finished 13th overall. Joked, this is the part that gets me because I know how old I am. He joked he was too old to be doing this much longer. He's 44 years old. He has at least one more race this weekend. And I say at least because Gordon talked to the media while at Pocono yesterday before they got into the car for practice and qualifying, said that he would be available to Rick Hendrick and the number 88 team as long as it would be necessary. Finished the question and answer session by saying, quote, "I'm here as long as they need me." I understand that, but ideally, and this is not any kind of a knock on Dale Earnhardt Jr., but ideally, how much longer do we really want a Jeff Gordon in there before we start thinking about, if not Dale Jr., somebody else?
Well, I think it was great for Indy, and it's maybe a good thing for Pocono, but it would be great to see Rick Hendrick maybe take a shot, and this is not knocking Jeff Gordon. He has done his time, but it's time to think about the future later on, looking at who your drivers are going to be, replacing these drivers as they go out. I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion. I mean, I've heard so many people talking this week about the fact of, is Dale Jr. done? Is he going to have to retire? And it's like, no, but you got to start thinking long term. They're getting up there in age. This could be a shot where they stick somebody in to let them see what they can do, how they can handle it, how they're going to go forward. But it's kind of a catch-22. You want Jeff Gordon, but you also want the future.
Yeah. Well, I think probably what I would say, certainly this weekend, maybe next weekend, Watkins Glen, we know how good Jeff Gordon is on a road course. Once you get past Watkins Glen, I think I would be thinking about other drivers doing exactly what you just said, trying to give them a little bit of a taste of what it's like up at the big level. You get your junior motorsports drivers who are effectively your farm team, and you try and figure out who you might be thinking about bringing up because and again, Jeff Gordon has stepped aside. Sooner or later, you're going to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. end up stepping aside as well. Casey Kane, Jimmy Johnson. Casey Kane hasn't really performed, I think, as well as most people would have expected him to once he got over into the 5-car. And while Jimmy Johnson's still in his 30s, he has actually been in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing for quite a while. You're going to have to start thinking about who you're going to get to replace these guys as you either let them go or they depart.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. If you look across the entire Sprint Cup Series right now, over the next couple years, we're going to start seeing these drivers leave. Not just the likes of a Dale Jr. or Jimmy Johnson, but you look across the board. Matt Kenseth. I mean, there's a guy. Greg Biffle. There's a lot of these guys that are going out, and they need to have these guys ready to go that are coming in. So for Rick Hendrick, it's kind of one of those things where, you got to start bringing those guys up from junior motorsports. There's your farm team right there. Bring them up. Give them a shot. Give them one race deal, kind of just to gauge how they're progressing. But, for that 5-car, Casey Kane, I just don't know what they've got to do on that car. But as the only car, that is the Danica Patrick of Hendrick Motorsports. and that's not characteristic. That's so uncharacteristic of Casey. He did so well in the Dodge. Getting that shot in the 5 was like the greatest thing for him, and it just has not panned out.
Yeah. Well, time will tell what's going to happen here, but something's going to happen over there, and they're going to have to figure out where that new blood is going to come from, because at this point in time, Elliott Sadler, I like him a lot, but he's not the future.
No, he's not. We talked about this a couple weeks ago as well. We talked about these guys that they hit that level, and that's the level that they should be at. The likes of Elliott Sadler, staying in that secondary series. When he came up to the Sprint Cup Series, didn't do so well, but he flourishes in that secondary series of the Xfinity. You look at the likes of Sam Hornish Jr. He's not even in the car. He gets in the car for the weekend, and boom, he puts it in victory lane.
Yeah.
There are those guys that should hit that level, and then there's guys that they can't go up another level because it degrades them.
Yeah, and then we
and
got to
as
figure
much
out.
as I don't like saying that, I really don't. But you just got to look at the fact of the talent versus the series.
Sure. Then you look at a guy like a Justin Allgaier. He's been signed on to the 7 car for Junior Motorsports this year. He had been given a shot, but granted, it was at Scott Motorsports, which while they had Hendrick Motorsports equipment, they were only a single car team. And with all due respect, I don't really feel like they have the greatest grip on what's going on. I mean, they've got Clint Boyer this year on a 1-year holdover until he moves over to Stewart-Haas Racing next year. But I'm not seeing out of Clint Boyer what I would expect to see out of a Clint Boyer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I was excited to see him getting back into a bow tie because that's where he really did good, was in the bow ties. But he can't get anything done in the Scott equipment. I don't know why. You're right. It's Hendrick equipment. Maybe it's the hand-me-downs or something, but I was expecting to see a little bit more out of Clint. He even had a freak electrical fire a couple races ago. It's just, and then this past weekend at Indy gets knocked out. It's just been one thing after another. So I'm sure he is ready for the 2017 season to get in underway where he can get in that 14 and actually probably breathe a sigh of relief and at the same time have a grin from ear to ear.
As much as we've talked about how we're looking at the Xfinity Series and even Camping World Truck Series levels, and we are seeing a whole lot of talent being ready to come up, at this point in time, I'm not sure where that talent for Hendrick Motorsports is coming from. That's my biggest question mark at this point in time.
Well, that's a very good question. And the reason I say that it is a very good question is the fact that you look at the likes of JGR. They have got a farm system over there. They have got drivers upon drivers ready to come up and continue the domination that they are setting forth this season. You look at the likes of Hendrick, they don't really have too much to go to. They haven't really focused too much on that. Now they're going to have to worry about being that second or third team, so to speak, when you look at the power rankings. Hendrick is on a slip slide down a bad slope, and they're going to have to recover. They're going to have to find that young blood that you just mentioned, and they're going to have to find it fast because they've got to get themselves back up on that top team. They were the top team. They were the team to beat, and JGR has smacked them in the mouth.
Yep, I agree. To the post-race media crush for the now 2-time defending winner of the Brickyard 400, Kyle Busch was asked about whether he might try and follow in his brother's footsteps and give the Indy 500 a chance. He said, quote, "It certainly may open up some avenues. I'm not sure when, but there's some people out there that have expressed some interest to me, so we'll see where things kind of go. Obviously, my focus is on the Sprint Cup Series and what I'm doing here." And we have heard from more than one driver, including Kurt Busch, who ran it a couple of years ago. They want to do it, but they understand the time that it's going to take, the time that they're going to have to invest in doing something like that. And if you are concentrating on the Sprint Cup Series and dominating your moonlighting Xfinity Series efforts, when is Kyle Busch going to find the time to run in the Indy 500?
I don't see that happening. He's doing enough as it is. He just needs to stick to one thing. But for him and for anybody who decides to do that Indy 500, it's extremely stressful. You cannot concentrate on anything because not only that, but the moment you even breathe the fact that you're interested in it, all of a sudden you have at least 2 to 3 questions a week asking you about the Indy 500. So now you've put it into people's minds, and now they're going to badger you until you make a decision on it. And then once you do make a decision, you have no time to think about anything else.
Yeah, exactly. We've mentioned the fact that the phone lines are open to you at 941-1011 and toll free at 866-551-9933. And as I hang up on Dustin because I was stupid enough not to lock him in, we get Margaret from Hoover. Hi, Margaret. How are you?
Hey, long time no speak.
Yes, indeed. How is everything with you?
Well, I'm getting better. I'm getting over the shingles.
Oh, my gosh. Well, yeah.
And I had the vaccine, so that's a whole nother story, but I'll make it. I'm a tough old nut over here.
What you got on your mind?
Well, I don't want to see Kyle Busch today.
Yeah.
I mean, you sit there and I watched this whole race to see him win.
Yes, you did.
I know. Hey, but it was wonderful at the end. Our buddy, at least he got back up and finished 11th.
Yeah.
And just, does he and Jeff Gordon not have class? Class is class, as in there's other folks. I mean, really.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I think a lot of the stuff with NBC, which they're showing everything on MSNBC, not MSNBC.
See, NBC Sports Network.
NBC Sports Network, and that's one of those. If you're on satellite, if you're on cable, if you're on whatever, you're having to pay extra to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see letters in the magazines, and you hear people talking about it. Times are tough for a lot of folks, and they don't have that extra money.
Yeah.
And I don't think, how long when ESPN had the contract for all or part of the racing season, they bounced around from one of their networks to another. Granted, they had more sports networks than NBC does. We don't go to. I just think you're not doing the fans. Where were the people? Nobody was sitting in the stands last Sunday.
I know. That's a problem with and Dustin, I apologize. I did not lock you in before, and that was totally on me. You and I kind of talked about this. The difference between an ESPN was the first 24-hour, quote-unquote, sports channel out there. So when cable really started to go, they were just always included on the basic tier. Right. Now you get your CBS sports networks, which I have as an availability to me on my particular cable network, but I'd have to go up, I think, not just one tier, but 2 tiers to get them. Right. NBC Sports Network, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, blah, 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 blah. The difference here is the fact that I understand that Fox Sports wants to get their 2 cable networks onto the basic channel or basic level. NBC wants to do that as well, but you're effectively holding NASCAR, and in the case of the NBC Sports Network, IndyCar and Formula One, all hostage, and nobody's giving them the time of day when it comes to putting them on the basic level of cable.
Right.
Yeah, it's extremely bad for the sports, and it's extremely bad for the fans. The fans are missing out because they're not able to tune in. They're not able to watch.
Right.
And that's what you need. You need your fan base, and if you're not able to get your product to your fan base, you're effectively dead in the water.
Well, I think my satellite package, I do have the CBS, but I flip over there, and I never watch anything they show because I'm not interested in it.
Right.
I really think they screwed up when whoever owns Speed Channel sold to Fox. That's what you had, and you didn't have all this other mess on there, and it's just, come on, people, and then here you've got, Jeff Gordon has retired, back out of retirement for a good reason. Tony's leaving. Dale Jr. is already in his 40s. Jimmy Stewart, Matt Kenseth, he and Dale Jr. came in. He beat out Dale Jr. for Rookie of the Year when they came in.
That's right.
But you have these people, and there are, you do have a Chase Elliott come along. There may be 1 or 2 others. I think there are probably some really good ones coming in truck, but you can't put them in a sprint series yet. They're not ready. They don't have enough seat time.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And then here, Tony, they're going to start an Xfinity team.
Yeah, they are. We're going to talk about that here in just a couple of minutes.
Hey, so anyway, let me let you go. Are you going to the reunion tonight?
I am.
You are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Curtis said he'd see you there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I've been out of high school long enough. My 30th high school reunion is coming up tonight. I feel old.
Someone old man.
Shut up. You'll be there soon.
Yeah, but you'll always be ahead.
That's true. Yes, I will. You better learn your lesson, Bubba.
That's right.
All right. The other thing that she mentioned while I had hung up on you and you were calling back again is the fact that the stands at Indianapolis Motor Speedway were amazingly empty.
I was shocked. I could not understand for the life of me. I saw one camera angle, and then I was like, oh, okay, down in one of the turns, okay. And then when I saw the front stretch, I was like, are you kidding me right now? I was like, where is everybody?
Well, all right, you and I have talked about this, and with respect to even our bosses, while we have noticed at Talladega the fans are coming out in droves and they love the racing at Talladega, by and large, what we are seeing across the nation when it comes to Cup Series racing, Xfinity Series racing, a little bit less over the Camping World Truck Series just because everyone's kind of always thought about that as being that third level. But we're seeing a drop down. We just had a report that came out that said ticket sales overall are down. Revenues because of ticket sales are down. And I get it. The tickets aren't cheap, but it can't be just that. There's something else going on here.
Yeah, there's got to be something else. It's one of the we see the smoke. We're just waiting for the flames to shoot up so we can figure out what it is, but it's just really weird and it's that you're right. At our track with our bosses, Talladega Superspeedway, it's packed. There is hardly there's never a seat in the house there. Everybody just flocks there. Bristol, same way. Night race, it's going to be packed. But for the likes of Indianapolis, that was just really weird, especially for like a brickyard.
Sure.
So something is going on. Something's not right. But the thing is the fan base has got to speak out to let people know what's going on. We've seen NASCAR do extremely well, listening to the fans as best as possible to give them the best racing experience, the best experience overall at every track. And something's going to have to change. Something's up, and they got to figure out what it is and change it fast.
Is it the leadership, or is it just something that the leadership needs to do? And I'm talking obviously about Brian France.
Yeah, it's Brian France. I wasn't going to go there, but now we are. It's Brian France. Nobody likes Brian France. If you go on any social media website, wherever it is, guarantee within a minute you're going to see somebody just totally not liking Brian France or the direction that he's going with NASCAR. They're not liking how he's treating it, and they always go back to if Big Bill and if Big Bill and Little Bill saw this, they would be smacking upside the head and everything else. He's just not the right guy.
He doesn't seem to have the touch that his father and his grandfather did. There's no doubt.
He doesn't. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that intuitive spirit when it comes to this business and to the fans. Yeah. So what? He sat down at a meeting at the drivers' council meeting. Whoopity-doo. But the problem is he's doing way too much, and the fans are not liking a lot of the changes. Yeah. He's got to figure out, instead of what's better for his agenda, it's not going to be better for his agenda if his fan base leaves, and he kills the sport.
Okay, there you go. This weekend there is something to kind of look forward to at Pocono. Kurt Busch, should he finish the race on the lead lap, it would set NASCAR history. Should he should he actually finish on the lead lap, he would have the new record for running each lap in successive races to begin a season. Through the first 20 events of the season, Kurt Busch has run every single one of the 5,673 laps, which ties Dale Earnhardt Jr., who set that mark back in 2012. In the 21st race of that season, which also was at Pocono, Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished 18 laps down, and, rain shortened the race as well, so that also hurt him. The elder Busch is going for 21 straight races, running all laps at this time. Weather does not appear to be a concern up there, so now it's just a matter of whether he can stay on the lead lap and stay out of trouble in the 41. So that will be kind of an interesting sub-story to watch. I say sub-story, there's a possibility that 41 could find its way to victory lane. He's been strong and regularly consistent in as far as running top 15, top 10s all year long, and he's got the win.
Yeah, and he's definitely got the right equipment with the right guy. It's a great matchup with Kurt Busch at at Stewart Haas, and he's flourished. He's come back to that Kurt Busch of old that we were accustomed to seeing when he was ever driving the Blue Deuce. Now he's really stepped it back up. He's calmed down a lot too. If anybody hasn't noticed that, he's really matured. He's really come into himself, and he's focused back on his racing, and that's why he's being as successful as he is. So it would be a great thing, and I don't see it being a problem for him pending somebody else's stupid move. I see him, doing this and breaking that record.
It'll be fun to watch. Monday morning, Richard Childress Racing shook up their lineup because the team wants to get Paul Menard a little bit more competitive. They want to try and see if they can advance him toward, at least if not into, a chase berth. So Richard Childress Racing took Danny Stockman and put him into the role of crew chief for the number 27 Chevrolet SS of Paul Menard. He takes over for Justin Alexander. There's actually been no word of whether Alexander's still within the organization, and Stockman takes on his new role immediately. We'll see if that pays dividends. It certainly did in qualifying, but, well, let's face it, qualifying and running are entirely different things.
Yeah, it's typical RCR. That's just their typical everyday, normal, day-to-day operation. If it's not working, just toss something else at it until something actually goes the right way. But I'm sorry, it's not going to happen at RCR.
Throw something up against the wall, see if it sticks. Wednesday, NASCAR handed out their latest lug nut vacation, as I'm going to start terming it. NASCAR suspended Stewart Haas Racing crew chief Rodney Childers, who oversees the number 4 car, for one race. They fined him $20,000 for having a loose lug nut, at least one, following this past weekend's Brickyard 400 for the Kevin Harvick car. Childers is now the 2nd Stewart Haas crew chief and the 5th crew chief in all to get the lug nut vacation this season. While Childers sits idle this weekend at Pocono, the Harvick team, the 4 engineer, Dax Geringer, it's easy for me to say, is going to portray the interim crew chief. Here's the fun part about this. This rule came back into the series back in May because Tony Stewart himself made comments criticizing NASCAR, saying they were creating a safety risk by not ensuring all 5 lug nuts on all 5 wheels were tight before the cars left the pits. Stewart was fined for his comments, but NASCAR realized he's right, so they changed the rule to its current suspension and fine should at least one lug nut on any one of the 4 wheels be loose or not there. Childers, when the rule was instituted, predicted that he would be sitting right after the rule was passed. He tweeted this out within a day of the rule being passed, said, quote, "All the years of hitting 5 and hardly ever was all 20 on post-race. I will sit at home for a week at some point." Wednesday, following his suspension, he simply tweeted, "Told you."
Yeah, I tweeted him, as a matter of fact. I tweeted him, I said, "Hey, Rodney," I said, "did you want to go on a fishing trip this weekend or something?" And I haven't gotten a response back from that yet. But I figured maybe he wanted a vacation this weekend, so he kind of maybe told one of the guys, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and loosen one of those? I'd like to go fishing next weekend."
Yeah, really. He could have gone with you up to Maryland, up in the Maryland-Delaware area. There's some pretty good fishing up there.
Yeah, thanks, Rodney. Thanks for getting back to me, buddy.
There you go.
He's really good, and it's a lot of these guys on the social media sites are really good, especially Twitter. You get a chance to talk to them, they'll actually sit and talk to you for a little bit. It's really cool how they take the time to just answer a couple quick questions or just send a message back and forth. It's really cool that interaction that you can have with them. So I mean, it's everybody that gets a chance to do it. I got a chance to talk to Mark Martin one day, and it was really weird. So I mean, everybody can do it, and that's why I sent him a message. I'm waiting to see his response, though. I really want to see it.
It'll be interesting to see when he does respond. Next year, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series schedule going to get some changes, mostly to start times. I'm not sure this is going to be the help that Brian France is hoping it will be. 2017 Daytona 500 going to get the green flag just after 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. It'll be one of 11 races throughout the course of the season that will actually get a later start time. Apparently, the intent is to get the end of the races closer, if not into, Sunday night primetime programming, possibly giving the sport a television ratings boost. I don't know. I don't think that that's going to do it. 1/3 of the 36 race schedule is going to get a 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central start time. 12 more events get the 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time slot start. And only 3 races will start in the 1 p.m. Eastern or noontime Central Time Sunday afternoon position. All the rest of the races are night races, either Saturday or Sunday evenings. Think Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend. Also, NASCAR is looking ahead to 2018. That's when they'll move the Daytona 500 up a week. Back in 2012, the season opener was moved from the Sunday before President's Day to where it is this year and next, the Sunday after President's Day. It's a move that puts the Daytona 500 on President's Day weekend beginning in 2018. They had made that move initially because the NFL had been talking about going to an 18-game regular season, which they thought might extend it and push the Super Bowl back into mid-February, but obviously that hasn't happened, so they want to move back a week. Effectively, what this does is it puts them on the weekend after the NFL's Super Bowl, then you get NASCAR Super Bowl. I don't know whether that's necessarily going to be the big ratings boost that they're hoping for either.
Yeah, they're really reaching pretty good for all these changes that they want to do, because if you're not watching the race, you're not going to tune into the race in prime time. You're going to tune into something else until the race is over.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody likes racing, so that's not going to work.
Yep.
And then if you look at the fact of moving it back a week, yeah, it's great to see it back on that weekend, and it is nice to have the Super Bowl of NFL and then Super Bowl of NASCAR, but I think they're really trying to reach deep for these ratings.
Yeah, you may be right. When we come back, NASCAR also apparently did talk to the NBC Sports Network about the lack of races on the actual NBC network. NBC responded by making a couple of good moves and then turned around and screwed it up by making a couple of bad moves. We'll detail what those are. We'll talk about who's selling the most merchandise. Margaret hinted about it. Stewart House Racing in the Xfinity Series. We'll detail that, and we'll get some open wheel news. When we come back, you're listening to the fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101 WYDE.
WYDE-FM, Coleman, WDJC HD2, Birmingham. We're Superstation 101 WYDE.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Let's talk track. No matter how fast you take those turns or speed through the straightaway, you've got to make sure your engine is taken care of, because your health is your engine. You need the healthier alternative to cigarettes. You need Wild Vapors. Wild Vapors is known for their signature formula mixed in an off-site clean room facility for their own brands. They only use the purest vaping juice on the circuit without sucralose or diacetyl. You still get the same satisfaction of smoking without the high health risk of cigarettes. The crew at Wild Vapors knows you're busy on the lead lap and can't always take a pit stop when you need it. That's why they provide you with the best products on the circuit sent directly to you at your garage. That's right, call in your order and they'll send it directly to you. Now that's the type of crew you need for the Brickyard 400. Am I right? So don't be a lug nut short of a full set. Find the healthier alternative to smoking. Make your next pit stop at Wild Vapors of Sylacauga today. 256-369-2569. Find them in the Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Flashlight fail you again? Security system batteries running low? Emergency situations call for immediate action, and you don't have time to be fighting bad batteries in the dark. Interstate Batteries has the highest quality batteries that stand up to the challenge again and again. Get your batteries from Interstate before you find yourself alone in the dark. Call 1-800-CRANK-IT for a dealer near you. Interstate Batteries, the right battery every time.
Welcome back in. Fastest hour in radio rolling on. We got to try and get to a lot of stuff here, Dustin.
Drop the hammer.
All right, here we go. NASCAR has been talking to NBC Sports head honchos. They announced that next year and in future years, 3 specific events will be moved off of the NBC Sports Network on cable over to the NBC flagship on-air broadcast network. Those races will be the Brickyard 400, the Bristol August Night Race, and the Talladega Chase Race in October. NBC, on the other hand, took that as an opportunity to make a trade. Instead of putting more races on the flagship, they've taken the Labor Day Darlington race, the Charlotte and Kansas Chase races, and moved them to the NBC Sports Network. For a moment there, as I read this report, I went, NBC might finally be getting it. They're not.
No. Not at all. Mm-mm.
And we'll leave that
there. They're morons. They're morons.
There you go. NASCAR took some time Thursday, announced some new driver safety measures. They're hoping to help protect the feet and the legs of the drivers. The changes will not all be made at once. They're going to be moves made to strengthen the car by modifying the floorboard, the plating in the driver's area, firewall, footwell areas. All these changes really have been debated since the 2015 crashes of Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon at restrictor plate tracks, both of them at Daytona, one in February, the other in July. The changes are optional for all the teams this season. They will be mandatory for Daytona and Talladega next year before they become mandatory at all tracks in 2018. We've been seeing a lot when it comes to safety, and safety has been a big priority, and I have no problem with that. But the question is are we helping the racing on the track to get the butts in the stands?
That would probably, I don't know if that's going to ultimately bring the fans because they put some safety upgrades in.
No. Unfortunately, I don't think that's it. Sooner or later, they're going to have to, while I get the fact that they want to keep their drivers safe, that's a good thing. I'm not decrying that, but they've got to figure out what they are going to do to get the racing better for the people to come back to the tracks.
Yeah, you know, you can't have racing if you don't have people there to watch that racing happen.
Exactly. NASCAR's deal with Fanatics that created that superstore atmosphere at each race that you and I are not terribly humongous fans of is now a year old officially this weekend. And while it is controversial, it does make it easier to track sales. So therefore, we now know who sells more merchandise than anybody else in the Sprint Cup Series. And to nobody's surprise, the leader in sales will be Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Danica Patrick.
No. Rest of your top 10 is Jimmy Johnson second, defending Cup champion Kyle Busch in third. Chase Elliott makes an appearance. He's selling the fourth most merchandise for any one particular driver. Good on him.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Kevin Harvick is fifth. So your guy is fifth. The remainder of your top 10, Tony Stewart, then Danica Patrick, Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski, and Casey Kane cracks the top 10. Jeff Gordon, by the way, not included. He's not a full-time 2016 driver, so sorry, Jeff Gordon people, if you were wondering where your driver is. They didn't include him because he's not a full-time driver this year.
No, you can actually look at the fact that the Gordon fans helped Chase get fourth.
That's true.
Those Gordon fans who went to Chase, I mean, you know it yourself. Oh, no, I got to get all new gear. So now we got to get all this new gear and spend all this absorbent amount of money. That's going to help Chase. And then Chase actually brought his own fan base up from the Xfinity Series. So those who were following him there bought a lot of his stuff up there.
But it's not just that. He's also performing at this level.
And that's the other thing. He's performing. He's gaining fans. He's gaining a fan base. And he's actually gaining a lot of Gordon fans that were kind of on the fence about following him or looking to somebody else. I've talked to a few that have decided to go with him because they see something in him as good of a season as he is having.
Yeah, and I have to say, I can't really blame them if they do. So
exactly,
good on him. Good on him, no doubt. Tony Stewart found out he's essentially going to be on his own when the court battle with the Ward family finally begins its court proceedings. U.S. District Judge ruled yesterday, Friday, that Stewart's Racing Insurance Company is not going to have to cover Stewart for any damages that may be awarded to the Ward family. As just about everybody knows by now, Kevin Ward Jr. was killed when hit by the car driven by Stewart during the local dirt race event the night before the 2014 Watkins Glen International Sprint Cup Series race. That was August 9th, 2014. Tony Stewart Racing had argued, this is his company, by the way, that runs dirt track cars. Tony Stewart Racing argued that they had insurance for such situations through Axis Insurance Company. But Axis countered that they didn't have to cover them this time because TSR had not included that particular race in their policy. Judge David Hurd wrote the decision on Friday saying, in part, quote, the policy is unambiguously limited by the schedule of events endorsement, which does not include the Empire State Sprints event where Stewart struck Ward. Therefore, Axis is not obligated to provide a defense or indemnification to Stewart in connection with the Ward action. The case itself still has no court date. There are two deadlines in place, January 6th, which is the day when all discovery related to the case must be filed. February the 8th is the deadline for all the motions to be filed following discovery. The Ward family is seeking an unspecified amount of damages, alleging that Stewart could and therefore should have avoided their son, who was out of his wrecked racer, and as video shows walking towards Stewart's car under caution, not red flag conditions. Stewart counters he didn't see Ward until just before Ward attempted to make contact with his car, claimed it was a pure accident. In addition, the medical examiner's toxicology report, done post-mortem, indicates that Ward had used marijuana within 5 hours of when he got into the race car and that night when he lost his life. So this is the soap opera continues, unfortunately.
I am, Steve, I got to tell you, I am so sick and tired of this story. It seems like it's going to go away, and then something rears its ugly head and comes back, and I wish this family would just disappear off into like the woods that they came from and go back to their little smoking party or whatever it was that they do before racing.
Well, they're not going to do it, and again, we'll start to see this again come January and February of next year. So, as much as we kind of don't want to, we'll keep you updated here on the Fastest Hour in Radio. Stewart Haas Racing, as far as on-track stuff, took some time out on Monday and announced that they were going to expand out their organization beginning in 2017. Now, of course, they're already at the 4-team Sprint Cup Series allotted amount, so it means that Stewart Haas Racing will add to their organization by entering a drive in the Xfinity Series. The announcement stopped short of naming a driver for the ride, but they did state it would be a full-time entry. At this time, it's only one single car, and it will be housed in the current Stewart Haas Racing headquarters in Kannapolis, North Carolina. The team stated they would reveal both the driver and sponsor or sponsors at the end of the 2016 season. This has prompted a whole lot of people to kind of guess who it might be. And I think the smart money would be the guy who has been sponsored by Haas Automation in the Camping World Truck Series, and that's Cole Custer.
That would be a good call. I was actually trying to figure out, I haven't really had the moment to just sit and ponder who it would be, but Cole would be a good guy to put into that car.
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't know who else. We haven't really been hearing anything in the wind, but then again, Stewart Haas Racing has been, well, very good at keeping secrets, like shifting to Ford.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, you look at the fact of, Tony goes to a lot of different places and scouts a lot of different talent and stuff like that, too. So this could be maybe a way of working on their farming system when they move to Ford next year. So, so, I mean, that's going to be thinking ahead.
Yeah, exactly. We mentioned Richard Childress Racing Sprint Cup Series operation changing a crew chief. Yeah, they did it at the Xfinity Series level as well. Company's current Xfinity Series director, Gil Martin, he's going to take on the role of crew chief, at least temporarily, of the number 2 Ream Menards program. Organization didn't comment on why they decided to make the move, but they made the move anyway. It's been 4 weeks since John West Townley last raced that now infamous dance/fight/wrestling match with Spencer Gallagher. He's been sitting out since then with symptoms of a concussion. Townley missed 2 Camping World Truck Series races, but he's going to be back for this weekend at Pocono. He released a statement on Tuesday, said, quote, "I'd like to thank Parker Kligerman, Cole Custer, and Brady Boswell for filling in for me," talking about 2 Camping World Truck Series races and ARCA as well. He added, "I feel great, and I'm looking forward to racing at Pocono this weekend."
That was a misquote. I think he said he was looking forward to dancing at Pocono.
Well, let's hope that he can avoid that because, oh my gosh. One quick note here is we're going to flip over to IndyCar racing here. Kind of overshadowing this weekend's racing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with NASCAR in town, you got Tony George back. George brought NASCAR to Indy initially back in 1994, built the road course in the infield of the famed track, which allowed the track to host Formula One from 2000 through 2007. But George is also noted as the man who created the Indy Racing League and who used the Indy 500 as a bargaining chip in an attempt to be able to take over all American open-wheel racing from the primary series of that time, which was CART, which prompted the 13-year civil war between the two series. All that boiled down to in 2008, following the racing season, that war came to an end. The IndyCar series formed up, combined the IRL and CART. It also resulted in Tony George resigning as the league's CEO. He did stay on as a board member with the series owner, Holman and Company, until 2011 when he stepped down from there. Well, he was reinstated to the board of the track and Holman and Company in 2013, but pretty much as a surprise to all, he was appointed as the Speedway's CEO last weekend, which adds to his duties of CEO as Holman and Company, which he was elected to back in March to very little fanfare. We thought that things were soap opera when it came to being Tony Stewart in court. Holman and Company in the IndyCar series is this revolving door of is he in or is he out?
Well, you kind of got to have that soap opera in all the series. You look at NASCAR, and we've got enough over there to shake a stick at. And you look at Formula One, and you got the Mercedes drama and all that stuff. And you got to have drama. That's what builds the sport.
It's got to be drama.
IndyCar's doing so well.
Got to be drama. All right, we'll pick it back up here in just a minute. Longtime sponsor going to be leaving. But before we go any further, we must usher in the man, the myth, the legend from Talladega Short Track, the one, the only, late model Mark.
Good morning, my subjects. How are you guys doing today?
We are well. We're one man down. He's up in Maryland right now and claims that he can't do the dirt report because it's on his computer and he can't read that while he's driving, which we appreciate. That's a safety maneuver.
I hope to hear the one time that Dustin, since he's up in Maryland, goes and sees the late model show in Hagerstown. and does one of that deal. But I'm going to ramble on for a few minutes. I've only heard your show for about probably 20 minutes, as you know what I'm doing. But
Sure.
NBC, you're right. Those guys are dopes. It should be on the flagship station. Taking Darlington off and put it on NBCSN, whatever, is a dopey move. But right now, it just seems like the NASCAR circus is, I hear calliope music a little bit too much. I thought the Indy race last Sunday was a stinker from what I saw of it. I didn't see much of it. Why? Because I was watching that excellent race from Denver, the Mile High Nationals. Fox Sports, gentlemen, they seem to get it when it comes to racing. They get it. NBC doesn't, from who the powers that be. I mean, don't you guys think that Fox Sports is kind of pretty dang good with auto racing right now?
Oh, absolutely. I think that they are the bellwether. I mean, when they came in 2001, I was kind of wondering how they were going to do because ESPN had set a level that we remember from the 1980s into the early 1990s. But Fox came in, they embraced it, and they really have stepped it up ever since they realized that the NBC Sports Network is really going to be the main avenue for them when it comes to their NASCAR side of things. They're going, well, how can we put more races over on the main Fox network so that we can get more and more people slapping their eyes on it?
Absolutely. I found when I saw the Indy race, I was kind of embarrassed. I know they're not going to get the crowds for the 500, but I thought that crowd was pretty ugly. And I know this is apples to oranges to strawberries. But you look at the grandstands at Denver; they were filled. I watched Friday night qualifying on NHRA All Access last night from Sonoma, and what I saw was full grandstands on a Friday night, and that was really, really cool. But I don't know. I don't know what can fix NASCAR. The lower the downforce, I think maybe the better. I'm not sure exactly how they can improve the product other than that. I mean, like Dustin, what would your opinion? If you had one major change to NASCAR, what would you do to make the racing on the track a little bit better?
Me? I did say something?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. For me, for them to maybe make it better, lose the chase.
Lose the chase.
I think losing the chase.
Okay. Let me ask this, because what we've done is we've effectively made NASCAR a spec series. We've lost the days where Brian France Senior, Big Bill France. If you came in and you were driving, and I'll use the three makes that are in there today. If you were driving a Toyota and you were getting your butts kicked by Chevrolet, and you went to Big Bill France and you said, "Hey, can you help us out?" Big Bill France would say, "Well, you can do one of two things. You can go to Toyota and you can make your car better, or you can go run a Chevrolet."
Amen.
Can we get away from the spec series side of this? You can keep the safety factor in the cars, but effectively make the cars like their road-going brothers.
Well said, sir. Well said, and very accurate. As far as the Tony Stewart thing, I believe they're going to throw this junk right out of there. I could be dead wrong, but I think they're going to throw this junk out. And I think one of the things that's going to come down to is the driver's release that you sign at the pit gate and the wording of that. I think it'll be thrown the hell out.
Let me ask this, and I've been to a few tracks, obviously Talladega short track, so I've been to the Speedway and the short track, and I've been to a few other short tracks in and around the Mid-Atlantic area. You mentioned Hagerstown. I've actually been there and been in the pits. And I have seen very, very, very small, minute differences in that release that you're talking about. Have you noted from one track to another any major differences in that release?
I have, especially with the over-regulated, kooky Jerry Brown state of California. the California tracks have a lot of wording in their releases, and I think
that's because it's just because it's California.
Yeah, exactly.
In California,
it'll cover most bases. Some are fairly loose, and some are fairly tight. But when you walk onto the premises and assume, risk, and you sign it, that curtails a lot of things. There's been a lot of lawsuits throughout the years that have been absolutely tossed out, and so anyways, that's just my viewpoint on it. Tonight, gentlemen, we have Ace Hardware, Oxford Lumber Night. We're going to be giving away the farm tonight at the track, weather permitting. We got rained out last Saturday.
Yeah.
is hot laps when on the track. So it'll be a lot of giveaways. The usual gates 5, hot lap 7, qualifying at 8, and so on and so forth. $10 to get in. Children 9 and under free. And come on out to Talladega Short Track. Check out our website, TalladegaShortTrack.com. Go to Facebook, go to Twitter, go to whatever the social sites are. And
they're all over the place.
That's right. Gentlemen, another fine show. Sorry I couldn't listen any more that I have already, but I'm working and
I get it.
Enjoying your commentary.
I appreciate you putting your 5 cents in.
Thank you. I actually think it was 3 cents, but you guys are doing a great job over there, and thanks for what you do. And thank God there's a radio station in Alabama that has some racing on it.
Hey,
and
we love it.
I much appreciate it for your guys' hard work. You guys take care, all right?
We'll do it. Thank you so much. Late Model Mark, going to throw some chips up on the shelf and get ready for Talladega Short Track a little bit later on tonight. Things do change here when it comes to racing, and there's a big change coming in the Verizon IndyCar Series. The department store chain Target, or Target, has announced that they are reevaluating all of their marketing platforms. Yeah, I bet they are after the response that they got earlier this year to some of their different ideas that they threw out to the public. When it comes to the marketing platform, the first thing that they have decided they're going to let go is, of all things, their Verizon IndyCar sponsorship. Target has been a Chip Ganassi Racing sponsor for just shy of 30 years now across all platforms of racing. That also includes NASCAR and the Tudor United Sports Car Series. Target's vice president, Scott Nygaard, said, quote, "It was a really difficult decision that we made." In talking with the Associated Press, he continued, quote, "We've been with Chip Ganassi Racing for 27 years. We are ridiculously proud of the success, but the Target brand is about being fresh and new, so we felt that this was time to make the difficult decision and expand our sports marketing platform," unquote. He did mention the company will remain as the main sponsor of Ganassi's number 42 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series entry, driven by Kyle Larson. Their contract with Ganassi runs through the 2017 season, so that'll be their 28th year together. They have not said whether they're going to continue after the 2017 season. So, for all of the criticism that could be leveled at a Target for, being overtly politically correct, to not see them on a racetrack, on a race car, is going to be a little weird.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely weird because they're just one of those sponsors that's been so ingrained in racing. I mean, you can look back and just see all the great sponsors throughout the years that have been on for like ever, and then not to have them, you're going to look at it and go, something's missing.
Yeah. Well, we know what's not missing here. We've got a couple of great sponsors here. We just added them a couple of weeks ago. We're talking about Interstate Batteries, and if you're looking for that replacement vehicle for your car, for your boat, for your lawn tractor, Interstate Batteries has got what you are looking for. Look up interstatebatteries.com, find a dealer near you, or quite frankly, just talk to Jim Moore. Jim Moore and his shop, Moore Brothers Automotive, they are a licensed Interstate Batteries dealer. But on top of that, you also have our fine friends over at Wild Vapors. And Dustin, take it away, because you are the man who knows not only the most about this, because you have been a vapor that has helped you get off of cigarettes, number one, but number two, you're good friends with Eddie and Shelley.
Yes, I am, and they have been absolutely awesome for us, and it's been a great partnership with them. You, too, can also put the cigarettes down. You've heard the stories. You've heard my story. I've been cigarette-free for going on 19 months with the great help of Eddie and Shelley down at Wild Vapors in the Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center in the Alexander City location, 1 block up from Central Alabama Community College. You can walk in there today. You can walk in there. You can find out everything you want to know about vaping. Shelley, Chance, and Eddie down at the other shop, they are going to give you all of the information. They're going to find what suits you. They're going to help you find the juice that you want. And remember, that juice is that sucralose-free and diacetyl-free. It's the better juice solution for you. The healthy alternative to get away from cigarettes. Go to vaping. Stop by and see them today. Or you can also give them a call. Talk to them about what you want to do before you head down there so you have an idea in your head. Give them a call today, 256-369-2569. No matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are in our listening area, if you want to get in touch with them, they can actually send you stuff through the mail. They do mailing. So if you know what you want, you can give them a call and get it ordered. Give them a call today, though. Whatever you do, get off cigarettes, get away from those nasty things. Start vaping. Work yourself down to where you have no nicotine. Give them a call today, 256-369-2569. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Amen. One more note in the IndyCar Series, Dale Coyne Racing. They found another driver to take the seat of the number 19 entry. 19-year-old R.C. Enerson is set to make his Verizon IndyCar Series debut in the Honda-powered entry sponsored by the Boy Scouts of America this weekend. He's been a driver in the Indy Lights Series for the 2015 and first half of the 2016 season. He won one of the doubleheader races at Mid-Ohio back in 2015, so it's appropriate that he runs at Mid-Ohio this weekend. He is the third driver following Luca Filippi and Gabby Chavez, who already have split time in that car earlier this season. You know, one of these days, Dale Coyne might actually make a decision on who's going to run the 19 car.
He might, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it.
Neither am I. In Formula One, while just a week ago we mentioned Rio Haryanto's sponsorship funds have dried up, Manor still has the car and still needs a driver to fill out the rest of the 2016 season. Also mentioned last week was Alexander Rossi, who drove 5 of the final 6 2015 races for Manor. He's being talked about for the ride. This week, we have learned Stoffel Van Dorn is also under consideration. While McLaren and Manor do use 2 different engine makers for their power, it could be a deal struck between the 2 racing companies, according to European media, which would give Van Dorn some seat time. That said, Wednesday, it was announced that Haryanto would be driving for Manor this weekend. He and Manor came to what's being termed a, quote, last-minute agreement, unquote, to let him remain behind the wheel for this weekend's German Grand Prix. The reason why? Because following the German Grand Prix, they go on their August break. At this time, the media is reporting the agreement is for this weekend only. It will give Haryanto's management and Manor brass some time over the August break to see if there's a future for the driver in the organization or what Manor will be doing once they come back from their break. Renault was talking about their future, who may end up driving for them. They appear to be talking out of both sides of their collective mouth as well. On one side, they state that they're happy with their 2016 driver lineup, which is rookie Joylan Palmer and veteran Kevin Magnussen. On the other side is team boss Frederick Vasseur. He recently told media that the organization is in no hurry to decide on their 2017 driver lineup. Both drivers, for the record, state they're happy with the team, hinted they won't know anything until after the August break. Scuderia Ferrari showing their technical director the door, or he quit. I guess it depends on who you listen to. Officially, James Allison has left his role with the racing organization effective immediately, which now ends weeks of speculation about his future. It also ends his second stint with the team. He came back in 2013, helped make the team kind of form a comeback after having finished 2014 fifth in Manufacturers' Cup points. They finished runner-up to Mercedes last year, but the team failed to build on that success this year, and unfortunately, he lost his wife earlier this year, which has prompted him to spend more time away from Ferrari and with his family, which is understandable. Ferrari feels like that has hurt him, so they are moving on, as they say. Following a period of heated debate and discussion over the safety measure of what to do about the open cockpit, it appears nothing is going to be done, at least not yet. The Formula One strategy group has unanimously voted against instituting the Halo cockpit protection device for next year. The group met in Geneva, Switzerland Thursday, said it would be better to use the remainder of this season and the first part of 2017 to develop the concept of the Halo ring further and then introduce it in the 2018 season. Seems like they're shuffling their feet a little bit too much here, Dustin.
Yeah, this is one of those things where they cannot be shuffling their feet. This is one of those things where it's a safety aspect. And God forbid something happens next year while they shuffle their said feet along when they could have implemented something interim. They could have just said, look, we'll go with this for now, but let's work on something a little bit better. Let's take this and let's perfect it.
Right.
That would have been the proper choice. That's not the choice that they went with. Typical FIA style.
Yeah, we're dragging our feet, and let's just pray that nothing happens between now and 2018.
Exactly.
The strategy group, though, also did tackle the touchy issue of radio communications and, blessedly, have relaxed the rules regarding what can and cannot be mentioned over the radio. All communications will be without limit, save for being on the formation lap just before the start of the race. You'll have no radio chatter allowed there to attempt to keep the drivers from getting any pre-race instructions on car setup. So at least now, if you have a problem, think Lewis Hamilton from a few weeks ago when his car had a major malfunction because of a preset condition done by the engineers that he had to flip switches and turn knobs during the race and become effectively a rolling roadblock before he got it figured out and got the things rolling back again. Now he can be helped to fix that.
Yeah, this was the thing that they went too fast with it, too much, and now they've had to double back. This is good.
Well, it's that same thing that says we have a zero tolerance policy, which means that if you end up being say a high school kid who suffers from migraines and you bring aspirin along with you, you're going to get suspended because you have an aspirin.
Yeah.
Moronic. Also changed the return of standing starts during wet or rainy conditions. Previously, Formula One had the drivers follow the safety car, and when they were released to start the race, they would be able to do a rolling start when the safety car was off the track and behind pit wall. Now, all the cars on wet tires will go around on the formation lap as usual, form up on the grid as they would under dry conditions. That's expected to be implemented immediately. I don't know whether that's going to be any big deal or not. And then there's this. And I don't know whether this is fake or real, but a news report out of Brazil says the mother-in-law of Formula One head Bernie Ecclestone has been kidnapped and is being held for a hefty sum of ransom. The report was first seen in a Brazilian newspaper named Vejo. The 67-year-old mother of Ecclestone's third wife, Fabiana Flossi, was seized at or near the Brazilian road racing course Interlagos last Friday. According to the magazine, the kidnappers are demanding the ransom be paid in British pounds sterling and divided into 4 equal bags of cash of about $36.5 million U.S., or about 28 million pounds.
I don't know about that one.
I've only seen...
Bernie would screw that one up, too. Let's just go with that one.
There you go. I like it. You're back in studio next weekend?
Yes, sir.
All right. Safe travels, my friend. Enjoy your time in Maryland. Be safe coming back home. We'll see you next weekend right here in the studio. Hope you all enjoy the racing this weekend because we're got a lot to talk about next week on the Fastest Hour in Radio.